Councilman Copeland, and the pledge by Councilman Ostache.
If you'd like to participate, please bow your head. Gracious Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for another opportunity for us as elected officials in our community to come together to vote and to discuss and to grow as a city. Father, we ask, oh God, that you give us wisdom, insight, and knowledge as we continue on with the business of this great city. We thank you, oh God, for opportunities that are coming to Saginaw as we prepare to increase, as we prepare to grow, and as we continue to love one another. We thank you that all the things that we will make and the decisions we will make tonight will be for the betterment of our city. So, Father, we ask for wisdom, guidance, and grace as we go throughout this meeting, and we pray this in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening again. This is a public meeting of the City Council. Audience must remain quiet and restrained from speaking, interruption, cheering, booing, and any other obnoxious behavior. Just a friendly reminder, all council people, please put your phone on vibrate. Audience, if you can do the same, I need a new phone. Some of y'all got 15s and I need one. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Sylvia.
Present.
Councilmember Williams.
Present.
Councilmember Balls.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Bench.
Present.
Councilmember Ostache.
Present.
Councilmember Garcia.
Present.
Councilmember Flores.
Present.
Councilmember Copeland.
Present.
And Mayor Moore.
Present.
You have 9 members present, 0 absent.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have any announcements?
We only have a proclamation on the agenda this evening. It's designating October 8th through the 14th, 2023 as Fire Prevention Week.
And that will be presented by Councilman Williams.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. City of Saginaw proclamation.
Yes, I'm sorry. Please come up. I'm sorry. I'm tardy.
City of Saginaw proclamation. Whereas the City of Saginaw is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our city. Members of the Saginaw Fire Department are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally. According to the National Fire Protection Association, statistics show that 4 out of 5 fire deaths occur in the home. And whereas 3 out of 5 fire deaths resulted from fires in properties without working smoke alarms. Statistics show that working smoke alarms cut the risk of death in home fires by 50%. And whereas the National Fire Protection Association has established Fire Prevention Week to create greater awareness and innovation in fire protection and prevention. As a result, countless lives have been saved each year. And whereas the 2023 Fire Prevention Week theme, Cooking Safety Starts With You, pay attention to fire prevention, works to educate everyone about simple but important actions that can take to keep themselves and those around them safe when cooking. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Brenda F. Moore, Mayor of the City of Saginaw, do hereby proclaim the week of October 8th through the 14th of 2023 as Fire Prevention Week throughout the City of Saginaw, and I urge all residents of the city to protect their homes and families by heeding the important safety messages of Fire Prevention Week 2023, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of the City of Saginaw Fire Department. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Saginaw to be affixed this 25th day of September in the year of our Lord 2023. Brenda F. Moore, Mayor. Council members Annie E. Bench, Mayor Pro Tem. Michael D. Balls, George Copeland Jr., Michael Flores, Priscilla Garcia, Monique Lamar Sylvia, Bill Ostache, and Reggie Williams II. Tim Morales, City Manager.
Step up. let's do this first. Step up, start on that end, and go all the way down. Please. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Y'all forgot two ladies. Don't leave them out. Don't leave them out, please. I don't want it to be said that we not cooperate. Please, gentlemen, have words.
All right, Madam Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager, we accept and thank you for this proclamation. I also want to remind everybody that October 10th is our award ceremony. Let's make sure everybody's there to celebrate with us. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk,
That takes us to public input.
the clerk will call you to the podium. You have 3 minutes to speak, at which you will be timed by the clerk. When your 3 minutes are up, you may be allowed a couple seconds to wrap up your final statement. Please speak clearly and get to what you really want to get to. This is not a question or an answer period. The appropriate department or city staff will get back with you. This is not a conversation between council members and the person at the podium. Madam Clerk.
Our first speaker is Evelyn McGovern.
Good evening, Council, City
evening.
Clerk, City Manager, and the citizens of Saginaw. Again, my name is Evelyn McGovern, and I am the President of Women of Colors and co-founder. And I'm here to update you on Women of Colors activities regarding the ARPA funds awarded to Women of Colors earlier this year. And you should have received a flyer from the City Clerk, and one of the flyers is called Time to Have a Conversation. And that forum is a community forum. It'll be held this Friday on September the 29th at 7:00 p.m. And asking everyone, if you could, to join in and hear the awesome speakers that we have. And the topic of discussion is about protecting our youth in the foster care system. And so we hope you will join us. Also, you should have a flyer. It's a pilot program that we're starting called Dress for Purpose, and it's free for youth, young people from the ages 16 to 24. It's an 8-week program, and we will be covering cover letters, resume building, interview etiquette, financial literacy, networking, finding employment, mock interviews, and so much more. Other events I've shared with you before, I want to just remind you of is the Warmer Child for Winter be held November the 11th at the Success Academy from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. Also, we'll be giving coats to new birth to the age 16. And Stronger Together is for anyone that has a family member that's addicted to drugs or alcohol. It's a support group, and we meet the first and third Tuesday of every month at 6:30. And so I just really want to thank you again for supporting us and allowing us to receive the award of the $200,000 the first of this year. But we need the additional funds. Trust me, they will be spent. And it's a 2-year obligation, and we just hope you continue to support us, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Lula Woodard.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Lula Woodard, and I reside at 1919 Phelan Street here in the city of Saginaw. And I stand before you again to kudos what Evelyn has said, because we're finding that, we have entered in a time where our kids are suffering, and I think you know that, and that we are grateful, truly grateful. Plato says that a grateful mind is a grateful mind which eventually attracts to itself great things and great people, and you all are that. And we really applaud and thank you for all that you've done so far, but we still need more because we're getting more kids. I am over the 10th District juvenile program that we have at our facility, and it's an 8-week program, and it's the kids receive certificates when they complete the program. And these kids are on probation, and so they are mandated to come to our program, our Bottom and Life Skills program. And so we are, as Evelyn said, we're in the schools, and you already know that. She has alluded to some new programs that we will be doing, but it costs. And so we're asking that you would put us on your mind for us to be awarded extra funds so that we can continue to bless our children, bless our community, and have our children end up being those wonderful young women and young men that we know that they're destined to be. And so again, I want to thank you for this opportunity, and please keep us on your mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Thomas Kennedy.
Good evening, City Councilman. I'm here on Orange Street, security. What we want is a stoplight put at corner Warren and Thompson. Now, we've got a church that's got daycares to kids there, seniors trying to cross the street, and we cannot do it because there is no light. It's all speedways. And I got to talk to Saginaw Police Department, and he's 100% for me, and so are the police. We need a light for safety at Warren and Thompson. That's to protect the kids, protect the adults, protect everybody. But we need a light there. That's what I'm here for. Just think of safety first. That's what we want on. So what we want is a stoplight at Warren and Thompson. We want it as soon as we can get it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Our next speaker is Roy Lamas. No Roy. Move on to Eric Eggleston. How about Hurley Coleman?
Good evening to our mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, city council members, city manager, all the staff who are here, those who are joining us online. Just bring you greetings from Saginaw County Community Action, serve as the executive director here at the agency. And just consider our agency to be a pillar. It's a blessing to serve the people. And we were awarded ARPA dollars, in which we have begun spending. In fact, we had our first monitoring last week, and we're grateful for the staff who has worked so hard at our agency to provide the monitoring documents that were required. We're grateful for the staff at Guidehouse who has been so great and gracious in working with us. And just a couple of updates I wanted to update. I talked about it a little bit last council meeting, but more in detail. $107,890 was spent between the period of April and September to date. And this was a plea that we had in terms of trying to get our weatherization program stabilized. And we're grateful that that $250,000, which the council had passed, was able to help us to stabilize that. With that, we made our production goal. There was a goal set for 18 units to be produced. We were able to get that done by the time period that was allotted for us. And also, we were able to complete 6 city weatherized homes, as well as some quality checks and health and safety go-backs that were required. These units were done and completed, and now we're into getting the next quarter done. We have some houses picked out in the city that we're going to do, as well as getting ready to start with capital expenditures. We're going to start with vetting our architects and engineers to go into the 28-24 campus, which has leaks as we speak. It's leaking. The extended portion we're going to build out for food storage which we're getting ready for. And then we're just getting all the other preparations ready for the demolition, which will happen and take place. We're vetting those engineers and contractors and getting the asbestos surveys done, in which we have those back. And we'll be waiting to move forward with that. So we're excited about what we've done and about what's going to happen towards the winter of this year and even into the spring going into '24. So we do have plans to spend down the capital expenditures and meet our goals, as well as spend down the programmatic funds. But if there isn't any other funding that's available, we're here. And we will serve in those areas in the needs of workforce development and needs of youth programming. So CAC is here, and we're excited to be a partner in this fight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our final speaker is Patrice Boulware. Patrice? Mayor, we are now at council remarks.
Councilmen and women, you have 3 minutes as well. And we will start tonight with Councilman Ostash.
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome to everybody in the chamber. We have a pretty good crowd and everybody watching from home. Just a few things. So Evelyn and Lula, once again, thanks for coming out and giving us an update on everything that you've been doing with Women of Color. I know there's a lot of good programs that you have. And Lula, after you said your address, I think we might be neighbors. So I'm actually on Weddock, so I live right around the corner from you. Thomas, just thanks for coming out and sharing your thoughts. You're also in my neighborhood, so I'm very familiar with speed and a lot of traffic issues that we have. So our staff heard you, and they'll take a look at your concerns. And Mr. Coleman, once again, wow, there's a lot that's going on over there at CAC. So hats off to you. That was quite an extensive update that you gave us. Just a couple of announcements that I have and a couple of things. So this is National Hispanic Heritage Month, so I want to wish my colleagues and the rest of the citizens from the Hispanic community in the city a great celebration during the month. I know there was some things that were going on earlier at the SVRC Marketplace. I happened to be out of town and had missed that. Also, I had the opportunity and was invited to the Merida International Institute of Peace and Happiness. They did a march last week. It was a great event. It was held at the Montague Inn. So I was invited by actually an old colleague of mine from high school. But I liked one of the things that Dr. Merida said, and it was peace brings peace. And I think if we just kind of think of that, it starts with us. And I think that was a very good message that he sent that day. And for me, what I kind of got from the entire event with all the great vendors that were there as well is just, it was kind of a mind and body thing too. It's just kind of a really nice atmosphere. So thank you for them for putting that on. I look forward to coming back next year. Also, congratulations to the Halls. Sandy and his spouse Florence, they won the grand prize for our summer best kept yard that we have. I think it's our 3rd season or more. 6, okay, times it by 2. But anyways, congratulations to them and congratulations to everybody else and all the other quadrants that were winners as well. You had some great pictures and some beautiful homes. Something was posted on Facebook, and I can't really give a phone number, but I do have a website. So a friend of mine, Kanika Poo, she had posted something to her page that talked about full ride scholarship alert. And this was, it's the Gates Scholarship, and it opens September 15th. So this is for high school seniors only, and it's for the African American, American Indian and Native and Alaska Natives, Asian and Pacific Islander Americans, and Hispanic, the Hispanic community. So it's Pell Grant eligible, she said, cumulative grade point of 3.3 and on. So that is, their website is thegatesscholarship.org. I'll repeat that, thegatesscholarship.org. That is on my Facebook page as well. Thank you. Also, hats off to the Saginaw County Parks. They are doing rides for seniors again. Thank you.
Next, we have Councilwoman Priscilla Garcia.
Good evening, concerned citizens of the community, and thank you for all our great public speakers that come up and share your great things in the community that you're doing, because it does take a lot of workforce. And I know Women of Colors, you guys been doing it for a long time, so kudos to you. And of course, CAC, one of my founding homes where I started off my career as a social worker. So it's good to hear all the updates, that the money's being good use, and I'm hearing it as well from the citizens. Not a lot to say, but Shout out to Miguel from Que Onda. I celebrated last weekend Hispanic Heritage Month, and I did attend all 4 days, and it was a really great celebration. I'm actually stepping up and gonna help for the 4th annual next year, so we're getting excited for that. There is a food giveaway this Wednesday. I know a lot of people always ask me, and I'm always putting, like I said, community alerts on my Facebook page. But Center of Hope Food Pantry this Wednesday, the trucks start at 8, and they're gonna have on Emerson and Hess. So Emerson's 723 line up behind the sign, and Hess 701 New Beginnings Outreach. They're gonna be the same food, so just 2 different places that you can go. So if you know anybody in need, it'll start approximately at 9:30 a.m. So you can start lining up probably a little bit sooner than that. So if you know anybody in need this Wednesday, Center of Hope, it's a great program as well. And just want to say an early happy birthday to my mother, Elizabeth Garcia. It's her birthday Wednesday, so we get to celebrate her special day, because without my mother, I wouldn't be the woman I am today, the hustler, the player prizes, and all that good stuff. That's my mom and me. And the other part of my dad is me, just public speaking. So the best of both worlds, but happy birthday, Mom. I love you, and thank you for all you do and being the queen of our family. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilman Michael Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy birthday to your mother as well.
Thank you.
That's great, a great thing, a great contribution to the city of Saginaw that she gave to us. So, 2 things real quick. So, the Mexican-American Council is putting on a Halloween bash. It's called the Spooky Bash Trunk event, and we're looking for, or they're looking for volunteers. So if anybody's able to volunteer on Sunday, October 29th, which is also my son's birthday, he's going to be 11 going on like 25. That's going to be from 3 until 8. Please get a hold of anybody that's available over at the MAC. Again, that's 989-753-0500. And then the only other thing that I have is, again, if anybody has any information on the unsolved murders that we have in 2023, so Keyshawn Banks, Quan Lee, Quay Smithers, Mario Bulger, Cortez Hampton, Ryan Clemens, Pamela Whitson, I believe there's another one after Mazzy Rudison. There's a new 21-year-old that was killed, Jonathan Lamar Van. If you have any information, please call 1-800-422-5245. Again, the majority of these individuals are under the age of 21. The city of Saginaw needs to rally together to be able to find justice for the families of these individuals and move forward as soon as possible. But outside of that, happy Mexican Heritage Month and Hispanic Heritage Month, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilman George Copeland.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to our public speakers who shared this evening. Special shout out to Mr. Kennedy, who called me last week, and made sure he was going to be on the agenda today. So I'm happy to see him this evening, who's been committed and who'll soon be celebrating 89 years serving our community. So he serves with me on the Housing Commission, so it's a pleasure to serve with him. I do want to also mention this past week, I was off work, so I was able to attend a NAG meeting, which was a lot of fun, hearing our neighborhood organizations. Currently, they are in partnership. Our Economic Development and Saginaw Foundation are in partnership, and currently they're looking for updates and information regarding our city parks. So if I can, I hope I don't get in trouble, I'll send this through our city manager, but to contact that department if you have any ideas or suggestions regarding our public parks. They are working hard and looking to hear the voices of our community. There's an opportunity, a grant opportunity. So we want to see a lot in our city parks, but they need to hear our voice to make sure that we can get that money. So if you are interested, please contact. I'll do it properly. Send it through the city manager's office, and his team will get it to the proper department. Also, congratulations to President George Grant on his investiture tomorrow. So we're excited about that. And also to CAC, who hosted, who one of the sponsors for the Man Up the Return on this a couple weeks ago. Heard it was a great event supporting our young people in our community. And something specifically for young men. I appreciate that, spending time depositing into our young men, my councilman. I've been watching your videos with the young man putting that stuff together. So great work to you. And to the NAACP for their annual Freedom Fund banquet. There was a lot of people in that room last night, so it was a great celebration of what is going on in our community. And then finally, again, it's already been acknowledged, but I wanted to make sure to give Miguel a shout out. He is one of the hardest working men. Everywhere I go, he is going to support and ask and support our community. So congratulations to him on the 4-day event that he had, and happy Hispanic Heritage Month. And finally, as I close out, I'm not even gonna close out, I have 30 seconds. Have a great evening. All right.
Okay. Next, we have Councilwoman Monique Lamar Sylvie.
Gee, thank you.
See, I said the whole name.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to say thank you so very much for all of the speakers that came up. I like your reports and everything that was said tonight. Kudos to everyone. I don't want to call just certain people out, okay? And I also like to say thank you to everyone that is here this evening that decided to come and share information or a smile or a talk or a chat with your city council members. I don't have a lot to say right now, so I'm going to decrease so we can have more time later on. Thank you all so very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilman Reggie Williams III.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I want to thank the public speakers for coming out, and I would especially like to thank Women of Colors and CAC for being consistent in reporting and showing up to council meetings. I appreciate it, and I know my colleagues do as well. And since I had to read the proclamation, I've heard enough of my own voice, so I'm done speaking.
He didn't have to. I asked him to. So please don't think I'm riding shotgun up here. Next, we have Councilman Michael D. Balls.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank everybody, myself, for coming out and expressing, what you've been doing in the community. I think about the word community, and it seems like we need to come in unity to fix our community. That's a beautiful thing. I was thinking about the ARPA money that the president signed into order, $350 billion to serve the states and the cities. Unfortunately, it had to come from out of the COVID epidemic, that a lot of people lost their lives. A lot of families have been disrupted, so the government put money together to try to bring some of those things back in order. But here, we have the opportunity to give that money to organizations that we know are doing good work in our community, helping out with fatherless homes, helping people get clothing, mental health. We're doing a lot of great things in the city of Saginaw to help our citizens out, and I'm just happy to be involved in that myself. Because I think that God wants us to help each other out. We can go to church and hoop and holler and pray all we want to, but if you don't get out in the community and help the people that's in the community, I don't think you're doing God's work. And that's just how I feel. And I thank God that we had the opportunity to continue to spend this money. We have some money left. I'm hoping that later on we're going to have a resolution on the agenda to give money to the American Rescue Plan for revolving loans. But I think we really need to get with some organizations to build some new housing in the city of Saginaw. I know people that's paying rent for a 2-bedroom house, $800 to $1,000 a month. Those are poor people paying that money. A lot of them don't even have jobs. The welfare is paying it. I think that's a travesty for anybody to have to pay that much money for a 2-bedroom house. So we need to start thinking about building some new houses in the city of Saginaw. I was at the school liaison board meeting the other day, And the school I think that the school board need to get with somebody to take these vacant schools we have and build some apartment buildings and community centers. They're doing it in Lansing, I've been in Indiana, where they have, my granddaughter stayed in one of those houses, where apartments, where they turned the school into apartment buildings. Nice high ceilings, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. We need to do that in Saginaw. We got a lot of communities right here on the east side who the schools have been closed down because of the lack of citizens. And we need to make sure this stuff is right so we can get that tax base back in the city. It's all right for organizations to go out and fix houses, but we ain't have a lot of houses. We need to start building some. And in return, we can teach some kids some skilled trades at the same time. So I hope that maybe we would think about putting some of this money into building new houses so we can teach our kids skilled trades here in the city of Saginaw. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mayor Pro Tem Annie Bench.
Thank you, and good evening to everyone. Thank you very much to our public speakers. I think I can be brief tonight, but I do want to thank the Women of Colors and Mr. Coleman with the CAC, not only for just the work that you do, but continuing to passionately advocate for the people that you serve. I know when it comes to Mr. Coleman, he is on my speed dial, and I call him so frequently when I have different people come forward with needs that need to be met. If the CAC can't help, he usually knows exactly who could. And I just want to give a shout out to the weatherization program. It is a very, very valuable program that can do wonderful things for people's homes. It's a lot more thorough and in-depth, at least the last I knew, than the Consumer's Energy weatherization plan, which is still a good plan. But I just want to thank them for everything that they're doing. To Mr. Kennedy, it's very nice to see you tonight. And I know our staff was listening, and I think the first step in getting your issue addressed is a traffic study. So we'll be moving in that direction, and you were definitely heard, and it's very nice to have you here, and thank you for your service to the Housing Commission in the city of Saginaw. And I just want to add to Councilman Copeland's comments about the NAACP banquet last night. It was wonderful. I think the most wonderful thing about it was the honorees and the various people who are being recognized. We have so many wonderful, talented people who are actively trying to make the city of Saginaw a better place. And it's very hard to not find hope because there are just so many people who are committed to making their part of the city better and just doing what they can and making their contribution. So we're just very lucky, and thank you guys for being here tonight. All I have.
Thank you. And for those that don't know, I'm Brenda F. Moore. Yeah, well, you know, some people may not know my name, so I'll just say who I am. I'd like to thank all of our public speakers. We hear you. We hear you. We hear all of the work that you do. Not only do we hear it, we see it. Sometimes we don't have to talk about it, and we may not be moving as fast as you guys want us to move, but we see you. We know everything. I know everything going on in this city. I know who's working and I know who's not working. But what I do know is this. As long as we continue to work together, we're going to have Saginaw. Saginaw is here. We're like the Titanic. We're moving really slow, but if you hold on, you'll feel the vibration because you're moving. Guess you say she's crazy. I am, I'm real crazy. I'm crazy. I got to be crazy. I got to be crazy. But if you think about it logically, you don't see the changes as fast as you want to see them. But is that not what you do when you're on a cruise ship? You be flying through the water, don't even know you're going, but you steady going. You're steady climbing. Saginaw is climbing. And for those non-believers, trust and believe. It is a new season, and it is a new day. And Saginaw has arrived. If we don't get it, it's only because we're not out here trying to get it. Now, I don't know about y'all, but failure is not an option for me. This city cannot fail. Because it's a reflection on me if it fails. So yes, I do everything in my power. I go everywhere. I'm not because sometimes I'm tired too, so don't think I'm not. But I go anyways. Councilman Ball summed it up. We got to work together. We got to show a little love. That's our problem. We're too busy being greedy. If we would learn how to love on one another, we can have it. I'm not taking up my whole time. You know what? Everybody have a great week. So proud of y'all. Love ya. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk.
That takes us to reports from the manager.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, and we do have a presentation this evening. I just have a few items first. I know I updated council some time ago about the Ontario Agent General, Earl Provost, visited us in the region. He's been here several times to establish better relations with our region and Ontario, and one of the initiatives he wanted to do was establish a sister city with a city in Ontario. So we did form a group. We had 3 council members on the group. We met with a city a few weeks ago who is going to take what we discussed back to their council, and they have an international committee that they're going to talk about and see what the next steps might be. I know Councilman Copeland had asked about this. We researched all of our records, and we have only 2 official sister cities. So we have Tokushima, Japan, and Monochrome, Ghana as our official sister cities. So with this initiative, and if another city is interested, we do want to be very measured and work toward establishing what we want to do with this and what type of exchange we want to have. I think there's a lot of opportunity there for educational, cultural, and government exchange that we could do annually because it's closer. But we've had at least 3 attempts where we did not finish up the process. So I like the group we have. We have community members from education, parks, culture, art, and so this is a good group. And I also want to give a lot of credit to Councilman Copeland because we see from our relationship with Tokushima that's lasted for 40 to 50 years that it takes a lot of work outside of just the city. The Japanese Tea House and the Cultural Center is very active in maintaining that, and Councilman Copeland has taken steps to set up a similar relationship moving forward. I'm sure he'll update the rest of you on that as it progresses, but he has really taken an initiative there, so I'd like to thank him for that. And as Fire Marshal Sadowski said, the fire award ceremony is October 10th, so all council is invited and the public is invited to that as well, so that's usually a great event. And also October 9th is Indigenous Peoples Day, so please join us on Ojibwe Island at 10:30 a.m. on the 9th for a special unveiling of the Native American Land Acknowledgement Marker, followed by a dance presentation by the Zibwing Center of Anishinaabe and Lifeway, so that should be pretty interesting. And there is another event at SVSU after that at the Sculpture Museum, so should be a great opportunity, and I'm looking forward to seeing the presentation. And we have our representatives from Guidehouse here this evening. Claire Wilkie is the project manager who will start us out on the presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having Ari and myself back to give you some updates on the projects. So just quickly, we would like to go over our proposed timeline for council, give you subrecipient updates, and if you have questions, talk about how funding recapture and reallocation would work. So as you've heard from the representatives from the organizations who are here today, they've been working really hard, they've been spending their money. That is the case for all of these organizations. Everyone has started their projects and has been spending money. So our recommendation is to give them until the end of the year to continue to spend and work on their projects. And at that time, revisit and see if anyone is not at the place that they need to be and if funding recapture needs to be considered at that time. And so just going through the organizations, we have the amount awarded, the amount drawn, and then the amount in progress is, there's several different things with that. So when an organization has submitted a reimbursement request, we go through and we meet with them, we monitor, we make sure that the correct backup documentation is submitted. So if Treasury were to audit later, the city would not have to pay back money that was incorrectly spent. So we work with the organizations, and sometimes that's a back and forth process of they submit something, maybe it needs some tweaking, or we need additional information, but everyone has been really great, has been getting us what we need, very responsive. And so that's what a lot of the amount in process is that it's been spent, it's been requested, and we're in the back and forth of making sure that the city can release the funds to the organizations. With YDC, they had until September to get a letter from the Department of Labor, and that didn't happen. So the money was reserved but was not allocated. So that's an extra over $1 million that council is able to allocate. And then for Boys and Girls Club and Friends of Hoyt Park, both of those are construction projects, so that's why you'll see no money has been spent or is in process. There's a bid process that goes along with that, so they are working, they just haven't made it quite that far yet. Friends of Hoyt Park specifically was supposed to have started construction, but they recently found out that there's new maps, and they are now considered to be in a floodplain, so they've had to submit some extra permit requests. So they believe they'll be starting construction in October and still will be on track to spend their money. And then Big Brothers Big Sisters and public libraries have been given all of their money, and so those projects have been completed. I'm happy to answer any questions more specifically about any of these projects, go into any more detail if necessary. Councilmember Balls?
Yeah, the reallocation of funds that was earmarked for certain type of organizations, are we gonna take out more bids for those type of projects, and when should they submit those?
So our recommendation would not be to do that because of the lengthy process, and I believe for the first round of applications, the city received over 600 applications. So to go through that whole process again, to review applications, to decide who to award how much, and then to go through then the contracting process of getting all of their documents, everything like that, that would likely put you even farther behind if there is a concern about not being able to spend. So our recommendation is to give any reallocated funds to organizations that already have a contract, or some of the city projects that are spending down the money.
Well, I appreciate your recommendation. I may not necessarily feel that way because we have some needs in our community that need to be met. You know, so if there's an organization that maybe we didn't pick, then maybe the city council would think about giving them some of that money for that, because we have citizens here that's hurting real bad. I mean, really bad, you know, with mental health, alcohol and drugs and things of that nature, and definitely our youth. Our youth really need some help, so I appreciate your recommendation.
Sure, thank you. And that's all it is. It's a recommendation, so you can do with it what you will.
Thank you.
And Councilmember Silva?
Thank you so much for your presentation.
I know.
I kind of somewhat concur with Councilman Balls, because I'm thinking, and correct me if I'm incorrect, if there was buckets for X amount of dollars, and those dollars have not been used, or there's some, shouldn't those, and this is, I guess this too would be opinion, shouldn't those dollars go back to that bucket to be redistributed?
So, to my knowledge, which may not be complete, there's only a few buckets, and not all of the ARPA money was divided into specific buckets. I don't.
Actually, I think it was over allocated into buckets. There was a little bit
the math wasn't necessarily right when council made all the resolutions, so there was more in each one. But, I mean, yeah, I would think you would, whatever, if there's an organization that the money comes back and that was a youth activity, I would recommend you allocate it to another youth activity. Yeah,
Okay,
I think that makes sense.
okay. Also, are there any recipients that are being monitored, and because of the monitoring process, they have not gotten dollars that they have asked for, or?
So, kind of. So all of the organizations are currently going through a monitoring that's done every time they submit a request. But no one has not received funding because of the monitoring. It's just part of the process to have funds released to them. So they can request advances and they can also request reimbursements. But the money is not released until a request is made for a specific amount of money, and then we're just making sure that the backup documentation is there, and so it's safe for the city to release the funds, and that way funding isn't spent on anything that could be considered ineligible, and then if Treasury were to audit later, if money was spent on ineligible projects, they could have the city pay them back for that amount of money. So we're just trying to avoid that.
Councilman Copeland.
Regarding your slide that you have up, for clarification, when I see an amount in process, that is what you're currently discussing, where that organization technically requested those funds, but they're currently in that paperwork
Yes.
process, and then once it is processed, it will show up under the amount drawn.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So, let me be clear so that everybody in the audience and all of us understand. We're not opening up the portal again. We're going with what we have left over. We're well with people who applied the first go-round. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That is our recommendation.
Okay, so it's a recommendation. And the other part is that, yeah, we'll probably go back to the buckets to see, because under everybody's area that they had, there were a number of agencies. And some didn't even, come close. There was recommendation from the committee. And then we did do some of their recommendations, but then we didn't do them all. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands. Because I've got people asking me, well, when are you going to take more applications? We're not. And I just want to make sure that I'm giving out the right information. I guess it's really at the no, I can't see it being at the pleasure of council because it took us almost a year to do the first go-round. So we don't have a year to get this money out. We gotta get this money out, and it's gotta be moving fast, y'all.
Well, I think it is
Okay, but
it's
I'm
our
saying,
job to do that.
but I'm saying, we got like under youth, you still got a bunch of groups under youth that could use that money that applied in the time frame. And so I just wanna make sure. Councilwoman Sylvia.
Can I say something? But actually, someone had their hand up, and I know I've been talking, because I got a few things more to say.
You only got two at one time, right?
Beg
Two.
pardon?
You can ask two questions.
Okay.
Yes, Councilman Flores, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. For the folks that have the amount drawn, and I'm sorry if we've gone over this, I'm a little slow, but how restrictive are the requirements for reporting prior to the allocations? Because I've heard concerns from some folks that they're quite new to their accounting and that they're quite hard to deal with.
So, correct me if this is not the answer to your question, but once we met with the organizations, we went over their budgets to make sure that every line item was eligible. And so that should protect them at least somewhat. And then
From what?
Oh, sorry.
Protect them from what?
from Treasury coming back and recapturing
From
the
not
money.
using the funds in an
Yeah.
approved manner.
Yeah. Basically, with any federal grant, the agency usually comes back and does an audit a year or so later, sometimes a little bit longer. And if they find any group or any project to be out of compliance, they will require that money to be paid back. They will usually require the city, and a lot of the times, the city would go to the organization and have them pay the money back.
And so the model of the reporting is from Guidehouse, correct?
Yes, but it's also getting information that Treasury requests because the city has to report to Treasury quarterly.
And then you're a manager, correct?
Yes.
So in the second year, it would be $245 per hour.
Oh,
for-
I'm the project manager, but I'm not I'm not a manager level.
Are you a partner, leader, director, manager?
Senior.
Mr. Councilman Flores,
I'm just
I
asking
need
your
2 questions
position.
at a time,
Okay, you can come back to me.
so I'll come back. Councilwoman Sylvia.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there any recipients that are needing more dollars and they just have not been awarded or could not put their hands on those? And if so, can you tell me why?
So I think pretty much every subrecipient would say that they would take more money. I believe it's because of what they were awarded by council. Because a lot of them did request, when they submitted their applications, more money. And to make it fair, it seems like it was.
That's not my question, I'm
Okay.
sorry. They've been awarded particular amounts,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to draw from those, but they have not been able to do that.
That
That's
has
what
not
I'm-
happened. No.
That has not happened?
Correct.
Okay.
So far, every request that we've made it through, working back and forth with them, has been fully paid.
Okay, thank you so much.
Councilman Copeland.
May we allow her to finish her presentation and then we ask additional questions at the end? I just realized I just realized there's a lot more presentations we have to get through, slides we can get through.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine, yes.
Well, I respect, but I thought, did she ask for questions? That's why I started with my
She
question.
did, but that's okay. Let's get through the presentation and
Okay.
then at the end, if you don't mind, we'll ask questions then. So thank you so much. Can you please continue?
Yeah, so this was the main piece of the presentation, but we did also want to bring you some updates on the revenue replacement projects. Those are either all in progress or have all been completed, so they're moving forward. And then the non-revenue replacement projects are where what we were just talking falls into. But it also includes things like the housing fund, the money for food insecurity, and the fairground demolition, among other things. And again, all of those are in process, except for the housing revolving fund, which I believe there may be action on that. But yeah, so they've all been started except for the project with YDC, which has been canceled because they did not get their letter from the Department of Labor, basically freeing them of the findings that were found with other federal funding. And again, these are kind of what we went over before, with a little bit more detail. For example, Boys and Girls Club, they're waiting for bids. And Friends of Hoyt Park, they're waiting to start construction until they get those permits. And yeah, so those are basically the updates for the projects. And then so there are some unallocated funds. It's about $2.4 million. And so the process for allocating those, again, kind of as we've touched on, you would consider organizations and projects that already have received funding. It would just make the process a lot easier and make it so the organizations have the time and are more likely to be able to spend the funding. And there are a lot of projects that are spending down and could use extra money. And so we just say, we recommend that you consider giving to them. And once you have some funding that you want to vote on reallocating, you would bring it to a vote and then notify any organizations of an additional award and how much. All right. And then kind of the reallocation process, that would be reviewing any organizations to see, or projects to see who is spending or isn't spending, who's at risk of not being able to finish their project on time. And we are recommending that you give them until the end of the year because all of the projects have begun. And so it's very possible that everyone will be able to spend. And so you wouldn't want to take money away from organizations who are doing what they've been awarded to do. So we just recommend giving them to the end of the year. And then if there's any concerns about ability to spend at that point, we would bring those to you, and then you can make a decision based on that. And then the reallocation would be a very similar process. You decide who you would be recapturing money from, how much, and you would vote on it, and then notify those organizations that they've had some of their money recaptured, and notify other organizations that they've received money that's been reallocated to them. And that is it. So I'm happy to take any other questions.
Yes.
Well, I'm listening to what you said and presented, and again, thank you. I'm not gonna say that, but it seems like maybe the recommendation would be that in our subgroups for dollars, that we would go back and revisit those that we've discussed. I guess it seems like I don't hear a process for this to actually happen. And I'm just throwing but I'm putting it out there that it seemed like we would go back into those meetings, or either those groups would come together and say, hey, we didn't allocate, we really wanted to allocate these particular places, and we go and bring those back to the full council.
Yeah, I think.
And I guess that would be up to the council, but I'm just thinking decent and in order. And I'm also thinking about Councilman Balls and also Mayor Moore, when we were talking about the process. I'm thinking that whatever the process is or is not, it would come to the full council to vote on whether we would accept any more. Is it feasible to accept any more? But I think I believe that should come from the full council, but it was very tedious to complete. But at the end of the day, I would imagine that would come from a vote from the full council. And how.
So let me clear that.
Okay.
Let me clear that, because I can speak real good for myself.
Okay.
What I said is that we have people who are in the pot. We had over 600. I agree, and I'm one person, and you're right. We should go into the pool that we already have and look at those. Now, if there's money left over and we want to give some people who are doing well, right now, we don't know. At the end of December, we'll know what we really got. Because at that time, I've said this from day one. You need a backup plan for a backup plan. If, for God forbid, something does not work in one of the agencies that we've given money to, you need to have a replacement. So there are agencies who put in who are I call them low-hanging fruit. We might be able to clean up some of our low-hanging fruit. You know, but it is at the discretion of the council.
You have, essentially, I think, I agree with this recommendation of going back to the groups that you wanted to
Already
allocate
put
to
in.
that have submitted, and also the groups that are doing projects and are being successful right now. The main reason, because of the time frame you have. So these funds have to be committed by the end of next year.
Yep.
So we look at the end of this year, if an organization, they're all progressing right now, if say something stalls, then you want to bring the money back and reallocate it to something that can get going very quickly. If we go back to that portal, remember, you'll want to keep it open for 30, 60, 90 days and get another hundreds and hundreds of applications, and go through those, then go through your whole process. It's more efficient to do it the way where you're going back to the organizations. You've got two here today that I think said, that are progressing and said, hey, we could use more money to do more programs. So you have that option. It is council's decision, but just keep in mind that time frame that you have to deal with.
Yes, Councilman Ostash.
Quick question. Page 80 of your slide, you talked about the unobligated 2.4. Is that also including the 1.3 from YDC?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. And you did answer one of the questions, because I was kind of concerned with construction projects, so you did clarify. I'm glad we moved. Thanks, Councilman Copeland, for moving us along, because the question I would have asked prior was actually already in here, so that was very good to see that, because it takes time to get that on the floor.
Two questions.
The
Two questions.
last question. There was some concern, too, that the Treasury was going to try and pull some of this money back from the states and municipalities. Do you know if that's still a concern?
We're not concerned with that
We're not
any
concerned because
longer.
we are fully allocated?
It didn't go, I think that was part of the last negotiation
Okay.
for the debt ceiling. It didn't progress, and even given that, they were talking about funds that weren't allocated. We allocated them all to various buckets as
Thank
part
you.
of our process.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification, because you try to keep up on these things, but I was on that, so thanks.
So in actually, our money is committed, but yet not committed. But we got a backup plan for a backup plan.
Allocated, but not committed.
So, do we need it need to be allocated by December 31st, 2024, or do it have to be spent by then?
No, it has to be spent by the end of 2026.
Okay, spent by
Yeah,
2026.
it has to,
have it allocated.
it has to be with the organization, with the plan to spend by the end of next year, so you need to give the organizations enough time.
So in our rationality, if we went back and looked at some more, as long as we had those allocated by 2024, if we looked at more applications that maybe in the buckets that we know our community need, we can reallocate that money by 2024, as long as it's spent by 2024.
26.
26, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as
Yeah.
we're clear on that, then, I think that everything that we're talking about right now is kind of futile to a certain extent until the committee get together and decide what we want to do. So I would like to call for a motion to end the discussion.
You can't have a motion.
No,
Okay,
we're
sorry
not
about
at that
that.
point.
Okay,
This is
all
just
right.
discussion, okay?
Well, thank you
bring
very
it
much,
back.
ma'am.
You can bring it back.
Okay, all right.
Yes, Councilwoman Sylvia.
Thank you so very much. I wasn't saying that I agreed or disagreed. I'm just decent and in order when you do particular things. It's not a dictatorship. But I think, and I'm gonna give this question to whomever, and maybe it's a legal question. Once we took in the bids, or from the community and the organizations, is it not once that was over and that deadline was complete, can you reopen a new deadline and be fair to the people that have already submitted proposals?
Well, I don't think there's a legal issue there. It's your process that you want to do. So if there were, obviously, I would encourage you to go back to your groups and look at the proposals again to see if there's something in there. But if you could say there's no other projects that I want to fund, then you could take other applications. But you have various things that you could do. I mean, if you are looking at projects that you think an organization that is currently funded, and you know, when you look at what do you want to do with the funding, you can push the money out faster if they're an organization that already has funding, because they already have their monitoring plan. They might already have other plans to go that they applied. Most of them that applied, if you look at the list, the city might have allocated 300,000, but they might have asked for $1 million. So they have a lot of other programming or capital costs that you could look at. So there's options for you, and I think you probably do want to get back together in your groups that, your work groups that you had and talk about, well, you know, we have another $1 million in workforce. I think a big chunk of the money is in the workforce subcommittee that Councilman Flores and Councilman Balls, and I can't remember who the third one was, but you too. So your money has mostly come back, I think, because it was part of DARS and YDC were the two biggest ones that you did. So I would recommend, especially that group, getting back together, and the youth one. That's most of the money that's remaining.
Okay, thank you so very much.
Yes, Councilman Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. With the slide 5 for the revenue replacement for the behavioral health clinic, the other 50% of that, what is the holdup on the amount?
Well, there isn't a holdup on the amount.
I know us in the county had put in 50%. The other 50% is not put up yet?
No, it's 50% from revenue replacement and 50% from ARPA. So it's split between our two buckets, and then the county has allocated just general $5 million. So we're in the process of discussing the building with the county, but you may have noticed that there's been some changes at the county government level, so.
Correct. So that's kind of the holdup?
That can cause some changes to be made, certainly. But we'll keep you updated. I mean, if we have to do something different with that funding, then that's what we'll have to come back with those recommendations to you as well.
What do you mean, hold up? I guess I'm curious. Councilman Flores.
So if we're looking at 50% funded by our buckets, and then there's also a placement of, so there's really 4 principles here. Ourselves, the county, private, and then I'm not sure.
No, the other bucket is the regular ARPA. So revenue replacement, 50%. The 50% funded by other bucket is the health bucket, is our health bucket.
I'm talking about the principles of the entire project.
The entire project of the behavioral health portion is the city. So it's 5 million of behavioral health. Our intent is to work with Saginaw County to make that part of a potential new health department building.
I thought it was a $20 million project. I'm sorry, is it not?
No, it's not. Our part is $5 million. So depending upon how we move forward with the overall project, whether we're working on it with the county or we go our own way or we choose to work with another health organization, our part is going to be $5 million.
What's the total cost of the project?
I don't know what project you're referring to.
We're doing a behavioral health clinic where they talked about having a behavioral health like diamond, like for the region. Am I thinking of the wrong thing here?
You're right.
But we're not finalized on what that will look like. So if it were a part of a building that's $10 million, it could be a part of a building that's $10 million. If that doesn't work, we're part of another building that's a different cost, or we build our own building. We are not the provider, we're just providing the funding for the structure, essentially.
So we don't know how much it's gonna cost?
It'll cost what, we are not building it at this point. I mean, am I clear to most of council?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I don't know, I can't describe it any other way. It could be a $10 million building where it has other health facilities that, and we would be providing 50% funding, but we're gonna pay for that portion that's ours.
All right. I'll leave that alone.
Any other question? Mr. Copeland?
Thank you for your presentation. The only thing I would just ask, as you all go back, in what the colleagues have said, whether we go back to committees or whatever, one of the biggest things that I reflected on was a lot of the things that we talk about now in monitoring was information that we could have given people ahead of time. So however we do this, if it's possible to have a couple of sessions where whether we open it up again, whether we go back to our buckets, that those people are notified of possibly 2 or 3 sessions where they are informed of all of the paperwork, all of the process, every single thing. So up front, everyone knows what is required. They know when those deadlines are. So when it does come back to us, we're ready to do whatever we need to do. So, and then also, I don't know how we'll go about it, but your committee, if we could possibly think about amending you and also adding seniors, because some of the facilities had interest for seniors, but because it was designated for youth, they couldn't use it. And so I don't know how we would go about that. But just that's something else as we come back together.
Well, it's a center that we funded, but they wanted to have senior activities?
Program for seniors.
Oh, programming, okay.
But our verbiage
Yes.
speaks to you. So the hope was, now I'm not even gonna try seniors because my verbiage that was given to me was for youth.
Is that for the NABE?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then, just to kind of go back to your first question statement, I believe Ari, when she was here in July, did mention that we had recommended breaking back into those groups and that we were happy to meet to help answer any questions or like give any guidance on like how the organizations are doing, who potentially seems like they could really benefit from additional funds and maybe who might be struggling a little. So we are happy to do that. And then it wasn't done before they received funding, but before, one of the first things we did with the organizations was met with them and went over just their project in general, their budget, monitoring and like what the expectation is, and that, yeah, we're not like here to trip them up, that if they submit something and it's wrong, we'll work with them, because we want to set them up to succeed in case Treasury decides to audit them.
Any other questions? Fabulous job. Good job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Claire. So that concludes the management update.
All right.
Question for the manager.
Yes, sir.
The opioid crisis money that we allowed you to be in charge of and stuff like that, do you have any idea who you want to spend that money with?
Yeah, so that money is very restrictive. One thing we're looking at doing, and I think we're getting bids for it right now, is Narcan. I don't want to say vending machines because it's provided free. You see them in a lot of libraries and different things like that right now. So we're looking at doing those, and we have contacted organizations where we can place those. So we're going to probably need agreements with them and do the purchase of that as well. There's not a lot that we do other than that qualifies under this. So we are working with the health department on that initiative, and there's going to be I think an overall committee to include the city to talk about, okay, let's see if we put our funds together, what are some reduction programs that we can use those for. We probably could look at some of our victim advocate in the police department, but then you have to tie it directly to that opioid or drug use. How do you relate it to that? So it can't be, we're funding one position or something like that, but yeah, we're working toward that.
Can we, did we think about giving it to any of the community health centers or treatment centers or inpatient, outpatient places to give them money so they can give people counseling?
Do you wanna? I'm gonna ask Lori because she's been sitting in on all of the
Okay.
guidance seminars that the state and the feds have been having about this.
Yeah, I've just been in contact with a nurse at the health department, and it looks like they're going to be putting a task force together. So it's very early in the stages, but we can provide updates as we go.
Okay, well, I just hope that maybe we put that in some counseling.
Sure.
I mean, the communities that hurt the most, we know where they hurt the most, at where drug problems at. And they, go from people doing drugs to breaking into houses to killing each other for the drug trade or killing somebody to try to get some drugs. I just want to make sure we get those monies in those particular places because I think we'll get more bang for our buck by trying to help those people out that's causing most of the problems.
Yes, and I have been in contact with the libraries, excuse me, and they're interested in doing educational sessions or training or whatever is allowable with those funds.
Have you guys thought about talking to people that have treatment centers or counseling services?
It's kind of early. It's just kind of developing at this point,
Okay,
but
well,
we can certainly look at that.
Okay, I hope that you do. Thank you.
We will, sure.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I just kind of want to piggyback on that from Councilman Balls. So is there a committee or anything in regards to these dollars or how they should or can be spent? I know the city manager, and I have read some stuff in regards to how the money can be spent. But would it be feasible to have a committee to say, hey, let's spend it, let's take these suggestions in, let's use some of these dollars for the treatment centers or places that do treatment?
Yeah, I think that committee that Lori mentioned is really the best place to do that because that will have the healthcare professionals on it and counselors. And so that everyone's aware, we're not talking about the city got $1 million for this. We're at a little over $100,000 over the 20, so it's not a huge windfall of funding where we could fund, several treatment centers or something like that. But if we have, if we have 100 and the county has some, we put that together and have counseling or something like that. That is where we want to get to because even if it's $110,000 or $20,000, you can only do so many of those machines and Narcan, and we don't need it for our public safety. We already have supplies of that, so this is for the public. So it would take a long time to spend that much money. So we are looking at other options.
Because we have Narcan is like, I don't want to say readily available, but there's probably federal and state funds that have already had that in our community.
For our staff,
Okay.
yes.
All
Yeah,
right.
all of our police and fire do carry that.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Hearing none. Madam Clerk?
That takes us to the consent agenda.
The agenda has been available at City Hall and on the city webpage and on SG Channel 191. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, leaving room for exceptions.
So moved.
It's been moved in second. Do we have any exceptions?
Number 4.
Number 2.
4 and 2? Any more? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Madam Clerk?
Item number 2 is to approve the amendments to the rules of order of the Council of the City of Saginaw. That was Councilmember Flores.
Thank you. So there were just some concerns from constituents that I whittled down from my own concerns last meeting. But for section 4.1 and 4.2, they can be coupled into one. I understand that there's language in section 4.2 that says there's no restraint on comment, but would this, if it's talking about speaking versus action, would this be allowed under the First Amendment?
Is that a question for me?
Somebody want to answer that?
I have no concerns with the language of Section 4. In fact, a bulk of the language in Section 4 came from the Michigan Municipal League's recommended language for their recommended council rules.
So this has been implemented in other charters?
I'm sure it has, since it, again, is within the template from the Michigan Municipal League.
But you're not certain?
I haven't reviewed every city's council rules of order in the state to see if they themselves followed the Michigan Municipal League's recommendations now.
Okay. Well, I am concerned that this would, and I'm not advocating for this type of action. I think we'd all be best if we did kind of conduct ourselves in a professional manner. Yet I think this is an infringement on the First Amendment, rights to free speech. So I have a concern about that. And then I just want to get through the rest of the concerns real quick before I make a motion. So for section 26.1 and 26.2,
Which ones are you saying? Because I thought you went to 4.1 and 4.2.
so those are all set. I got the answer that I had asked. But this is 26.1 and 26.2 for the use of city email and electronic device. For currently, is the mail that we receive electronically, is that property of who?
It's property of the city of Saginaw.
Okay, so that's just cementing the fact that that is our
Correct.
property? And so if we have folks that are asking questions and want us to be an avenue to get an answer, are we not able to tell them the content of the email that would be the answer?
The point of that section is that your city email and any communications that you make over your city email are public records. They're subject to FOIA,
But we wouldn't
unless
be
an
able to,
exemption applies.
but we wouldn't be able to share those with them directly. They'd have to do a FOIA request to get that information, the way that I read it.
If citizens are looking for public records that are not readily within your possession, yes, they should be submitting FOIA requests.
So say that, I'm trying to get this all fleshed out. Say that somebody reaches out to me and says, we are asking a question on behalf of an organization or myself. Can you get a hold of city staff, via the city manager, according to the new language? And then there's an answer. Are we not able to share that with them?
Of course you are.
So
And the answer would be sent to them in writing. That's why sometimes, Councilman Ferrer, not sometimes, we've been saying, if we send them to the proper department, just like with public speaking, the people will get an answer if they're asking questions, because we end up getting a copy of what was sent out. Have y'all not been getting those copies?
Point of order. I think the question that he's asking is, you asked if you can assimilate that information to somebody. What she's saying is, you can't be doing it on this computer, on the city stuff, but if you send it on your phone, that's fine and dandy. Am I right? No.
No, she's not.
What I'm saying is, if they ask you a question about something on here, he can answer them on his own electronic device.
The point of section 26(1) and 2 is that you shouldn't be using your personal email accounts, your Gmail, your Yahoo, et cetera, to conduct city business on.
Right.
That is the point of those sections.
Yes, Council, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to accept number 2 for the purposes of discussion.
Number 2?
It's been moved for purpose of discussion. It's been moved. We've been talking about it.
We have to have a motion.
So we have to have a motion on the floor in order for us to continue this conversation.
I'll second.
So is that what your motion?
So we can go into discussion.
Right, because it was really just the, okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
We're-
All those opposed?
Wait, Mayor. Just for discussion.
Okay,
Motion a second.
so it's been motioned. So we will continue the discussion. Yes.
The way I read that particular piece is like if there was information given to me, like, like maybe my minutes or whatever, that I couldn't share those with any of the citizens in Saginaw. That's how I interpret what that is saying. So is that correct or wrong?
You know what, the committee people, can y'all speak up?
But
Y'all's on the committee. Can y'all answer the questions?
Let's just speak up right now.
Do you want me to? I mean, I think the attorney explained it best because she is the law professional and I am not. But obviously, if somebody asks you to get information from the staff, it is appropriate for you to disseminate that information. FOIA requests are for public records that may have private information that needs to be redacted, and that's why it has to go through that process. It might be information that is absolutely available to the public, but we don't have it readily available, and it's going to cost time and money for the staff to be paid to perform the task of searching for the documents. If something is not publicly available and you share it, that is something that, when somebody should FOIA it otherwise, and it's not publicly available, for things like that. But this certainly does not limit our ability to request information or get answers. I mean, I message department heads all the time, asking them for information or help resolving an issue for a constituent, and this would not at all preclude us from following up and providing that information. I think our attorney Lusk explained it well, but I also think that I would defer to her further on what types of things are things that people need to FOIA.
Councilman Copeland, I'll be back to you, Councilman Flores.
I do appreciate the conversation, because now I'm getting confused a little bit, so I'm sorry about this. When we say city documents, are we saying attachments? So is it, that's now that I'm reading, I think I'm reading too much into this now. Are we talking about attachments, or would it even be possible to notify and say, because I'm gonna be 100% honest, there may be information I get that I may not know that needs to be FOIA'd at times. If this is passed, will we as council be notified? And when we're communicating with city staff, this is information that needs to be FOIA, and we share this? If not, could we just amend this to just say FOIA, city documents, and email documents that could be FOIA?
I think you're right. I think this is being overthought. This isn't trying to put anything new in order. It is clarifying and cementing things that are already in place. If a citizen comes to you with a question and you get information from a department head, of course, you can share that information back to the citizen. If a landlord, though, comes to you and wants copies of their tenant's water bill, you are not the appropriate conduit for that information. That should be submitted through a FOIA request. That's kind of the difference between the two.
Any questions on this end? Yes, Councilman Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. So the word that is concerning at this point, and I had one constituent call it evil, I'll just be very frank, that if a member of the public desiring to seek a city document or email, that's the word, should be directed to city website for submission of a FOIA request. So any email communication that it does not pertain sensitive information for, somebody's water bill, but just a regular city policy, this language would put into place the fact that they would have to request that email through FOIA. Is FOIA a free service, or do they get charged for that?
It depends on the time, labor, and amount of documents requested.
Or is it usually free, or is it usually charged?
It depends on the time, labor, and amount of documents requested.
So this, again, is for me, or for the constituents that had reached out to me, is a hindrance for them to be able to get answers quickly or free of charge. So I'm going to motion to amend section 26.2 to strike or email. So it reads, a member of the public desiring to seek a city document should be directed to the city website for submission of a FOIA request.
You have a question? Yeah.
The motion.
There needs to be a
I've got a
second
question,
before
but
that can, anything
Yes,
else come up.
Councilwoman Silly.
I'm gonna just
There needs to
second
be a
it 'cause
second
I'm doing
first.
something else.
Do you understand what he's saying?
So do
Yes,
we have a
I understand
second?
what he said.
Do we have a second?
I just seconded.
Did you?
Yep.
Okay, so we've got a second. So now what are we doing?
Discussion?
We've been discussing.
Well, we now in discussion about this motion.
Right.
And this particular motion, even if they emailed the document to us, it would still,
Can be for you.
it still has to be FOIA.
It's a legal document. I don't understand. It's so hard to understand.
Then why include or email in the
Because they
language?
can send it to us by email, or they can send it to us another way. Like, I probably need more clarification from you. And I need that, just because a city document or email should be direct, because we've received emails technically that doesn't have documentation in there, but it involves sensitive material. And that, some of the information we receive as council members, we still can't just send out and share.
So I guess my question, because I sat on this committee, how have you done it in the past that's gonna change it for you, I guess? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Madam Mayor, may I just interrupt for a
Yes,
moment and
please.
ask council if it's okay for Guidehouse to leave?
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're on the clock.
We're so sorry, because y'all got to ride. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Just trying to get paid.
So I'm saying, is it enchanted? I'm just, since I'm new, I'm trying to figure it out.
Thank you, manager.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So back to the committee, what was the intent of adding this language into the rules?
I guess I have a question. We had this document in our possession for some time and was asked if you had any corrections, any questions or concerns. What happened? Was I the only one that got that email?
No, ma'am.
Point of information, we had the email, I would like to have this conversation in public. Do not want to have, and if these rules pass, point of information, we cannot even talk about the fact that we talked about this without a FOIA request.
Without what?
A FOIA request. Any communication.
That's not true.
That is not true.
Oh,
That's not
Am I
true.
reading it correctly?
so
That's not true.
back to my original question to the committee, what is the intent of section 26.2?
Miss Amy, Attorney Lust, did you answer that question?
I provided one example. Another example would be if a citizen asked for a copy of a contract. Another example would be if a citizen asked for copies of emails from me that are privileged and shouldn't be readily publicly disseminated. There are a number of things to which this could apply. Again, if the point is you're having a one-on-one email conversation with a citizen who has raised a concern and you get a general response from administrative staff or department heads, of course you can share that back with the citizen. But if they are looking for copies of emails that, I don't know, a conversation on email between two other council members that you were in a party of and somehow obtained a copy of, that's not yours to readily disseminate. That's the city's to readily disseminate and to take proper redactions if necessary, including protecting personal information of our citizens that might be contained within those documents.
Yes. Councilman, I'm sorry, Ostache.
just to, even if you look at section 1 of part 1 of section 26, it says communications for city business, exactly what our attorney just said. There's a lot of times you have casual conversations, but there are also, just like a business, there are things that are sensitive to the operation of what we do. And you're right, if there's a contract out there, it could be a land purchase. Those are the things that we actually go into closed sessions for. So I think it's the judgment of you, the person, to understand what is shareable and what's not shareable, and what should be FOIA'd. So, but it is right, it's city business that's FOIAble.
It doesn't need to be. Mayor,
Yes.
I just want to say, the way the rule reads, it's in our best interest just to leave as is for our own protection. Because if you get into too deep and release something that should not be, now you're in trouble. So, I mean, it's just set up for the protection of council, protection of city, for information not to get out there that shouldn't be out there. And it's been explained very clear of the examples that have been put out. It's very clear right now what you can. So you can share verbally. But when it comes down to releasing documents, I wouldn't even play around with that, period.
I'm not, point of information, I'm not asking to play around with documents. I'm asking to strike or emails, and we have notification if something is privileged that you share with us, that we've always had. So we know not to share that type of information.
Can I make a motion to call the question? Oh,
I don't think I'm wrong, but this question is to the clerk. Isn't there a motion on the floor?
There is a motion to amend and the discussion is regarding.
Okay, then you discuss, okay, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to call the question.
Second. It's been moved and second to call a question.
And this is just calling the question on the motion to amend.
On that number 2.
Right.
Right, on the motion to amend it.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, can you read what the motion is?
Take your vote on the call the question first. Take your vote on the call the question first.
Okay. Take my vote on call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Now,
So the motion to amend is to strike the words or email from section 26.2.
did everybody hear? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Sylvia.
Phew, Jesus. Yes. Jesus. No. Well, I'm so sorry.
This is just
I
on the
really-
amendment.
We're talking about the
No.
amendment.
I'm confused. Okay, I'm sorry.
Councilmember Williams.
Nay.
Councilmember Balls. Mayor Pro Tem Bench.
Nay.
Councilmember Ostash.
Nay.
Councilmember Garcia. Nay. Councilmember Flores.
Yes.
Councilmember Copeland.
Nay.
And Mayor Moore.
Nay.
You have 1 yes and 8 nay. That motion is denied.
Now, do we go back to the original motion?
You still have the main motion on
Right,
the
we
floor?
still have the main motion on the floor. Yes, Councilwoman.
Okay, can you please clarify? Because I also have several that I would like looked at, so I need to know exactly what you're saying right now.
So we're under discussion for the main motion.
For the
So
main
as long as
motion,
you've been
okay.
recognized by the mayor, then you can
Okay.
do your discussion.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'm really kind of a little confused at how some of this is numbered, so I'm gonna have to just kind of go by pages, maybe. Page 3, and it's number 10, I guess. Like it says number 8, but before that would be 7.
Sections.
Section 7, number 10.
Section 7 doesn't have a 10.
Well, Section 7, number 10.
I'm looking at it right now. Section
Number 10 is
Page
scratched
3.
out.
That's what I'm going to talk about.
She's looking at the
crossed out.
markup version, and that would have been language that was proposed to struck out.
Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. But, and first of all, and I'd like to say to the committee, thank you so much for your hard work. But, it seems like some of these are, let me just say, I don't understand why it would be a violation of these rules would be considered a breach of order for which the speaker's input would be terminated. I don't think we need to terminate our citizens from speaking because they didn't do a particular thing. I think it needs to be.
That's language that's proposed as being struck.
We didn't go with
Yeah,
that.
that's currently.
That's why it's struck through.
Okay, I apologize. Then I'll go over to section 11. And I think I've mentioned this before under miscellaneous business. When you come to miscellaneous business, just by Robert's rules and other places, miscellaneous business is not where you have to make a motion, and that's the only thing you could do under miscellaneous. Miscellaneous is exactly what it is, miscellaneous business that may or may not have been discussed. So I'm not understanding what you're trying to add. I mean, I understand what you're trying to add. I'm not in agreement to that because miscellaneous should be miscellaneous, and to make another motion should be another motion. And also keep in mind when making a motion, I don't think we should make motions at the table that other council people or the citizens are not privy to that we're going to be discussing or making that particular motion.
Well, and I think that's a conversation, again, to direct towards your
That's
council and
why
the
I'm
committee that
directing.
worked on it. Several members of council requested that additional sections be added, clarifying what different portions of the agenda were for, and that is language that the group came up with.
Okay, well, I'm saying that's why I'm saying, while we're having the discussion, that miscellaneous business, we could almost be laughed at because miscellaneous business, when you look up miscellaneous business, it does not say what is trying to be said under miscellaneous business. Miscellaneous business is miscellaneous business. You know, I may have some miscellaneous business, not where I need to make a motion.
Councilmember
Miscellaneous
Sylvia.
business could probably include, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's all right.
Chapter 4.7 of the Robert's Rules of Order specifically states, under parliamentary procedure, strictly speaking, discussion of any subject is permitted only with reference to a pending motion. So that's where that comes from in miscellaneous business.
So, okay.
I guess I was on the committee, and I guess if people would have responded back in a timely fashion, we wouldn't have to be going over this right now, honestly. And I'm not trying to be funny.
That's all right, because.
No, I'm just saying,
that's
you know,
really
and that's
good.
what we're trying to do here with the rules and regulations. I mean, you work at a job, you go, you have rules and regulations, they tell you how to run it, you know what you gotta do, you know, same thing, I just don't understand.
And,
You know, I'm just saying.
okay, and that's very good, but I think if the council remembers from last meeting, I did not see this information. So I knew I was gonna have a lot of different things that I wanted to discuss, because I did not see these.
So they still didn't give it to you after?
They may have been there, but I did not see them. All I saw was the beginning and the bullets. I did not see this, and I made that plain at the last meeting. So I don't think, just my opinion, I don't think a council member should be ridiculed because they have questions now, because that's what this is for.
No, I don't think anybody's being ridiculed.
Okay, well,
I really
I
don't.
have a lot more questions.
You know, I think what it is that we've got to do better as a council. We've got to read our stuff as it comes. And if we need to have it printed out, because I know Monique, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Sylvia, I'm about to be like you.
Don't worry about that.
I've got to start getting my stuff printed out. Because going back and forth on this computer don't always get it. So I'm gonna have to start printing out. So I don't think it's a ridicule on anybody's part. I think we're trying to get an understanding so that we can move forward. And I need all of y'all to keep in mind, these rules have not been changed and so much has happened. We went through COVID. When I first started, we didn't have tablets. There was paper delivered to my house every other Monday or Thursday. And so now we've come into the 21st century where we've got tablets. And so, yeah, we do need to go back and look at bylaws and change them. So,
I definitely have at least two more. And one is where it speaks on, I can see a council member moving out of the city, but it says when a council person moves, they must let it be known that they have moved to a different address?
yes, and that's because if you're outside of the city limits, let's be fair.
I said, as
Why?
long as it's not outside of the city. If
No,
I'm
you
moving
still
in the
need to,
city-
you still should report, you elected official. You are elected official. The citizens elected us. If we can't come clean on where we stay, how we expect them to do it? I don't know, when you were around, no, not yet, y'all hadn't got put on. When we did the census, you know, a lot of people didn't want to report that people were sleeping on their couches. We don't care. I just think doing our due diligence, this is Brenda, that if you are receiving city dollars, you should live in the city. And if you're not living in the city, you need to step down. That's just plain and simple.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, it's a timeline, I gotta let
But
you know.
that
I'm
was just a
moving.
reminder to let people know, because we've had it happen before.
Okay.
Okay, so that really wasn't nothing against nobody. That's like, let's move forward, going forward. If you move, just say where you moved.
Okay. So my other one would be, and like I say, because I didn't get this, I had a few. So my other one would be, in regards to, council members, and I don't know, I think, I would ask that it is re-looked at in how, you talk about council going to, conventions or what have you. That is, to me, stopping a person that is poor from actively participating in certain things, because if that person doesn't have a job, or if that person is deemed, let's just say, poor person, then how can they go to conferences if the money is not paid? If you don't, okay, let me give you an example. If I'm going to Lansing, and we already know the round trip, you're gonna get X amount of dollars per gallon, and your room, all that is already taken care of. But if I'm a poorer person, I can't afford to go and be reimbursed for my gas. And then I think we also need to look at how the food is done, because, I'm sorry, section 22, that and I'm just giving an example, and I'm just trying to torque it, because if a person sits on council, is elected to council, they can't go to these conferences if they don't already have the money. So if section 22, Councilman Copeland said that and I've said on many other boards, and this is the first time I've ever seen this, if you allowed me $10, you allowed me $15 for lunch and $30 for dinner, why can that not be a daily allotment instead of, well, my breakfast, I may want to spend $50 on a steak, and that'd be my whole day.
No.
What? If that's your whole day, I've never said where it was itemized like that. I've never said on one like that.
But that's the purpose for it, so.
So if your breakfast is $7, I just never have done that before. So, you all vote, don't vote, it's up to you.
No.
But I've just never, I've seen it like that. It means a particular way, 10, 15, and 25, but that's a total for the day.
The city is assisting pretty much with reimbursement. If you want to have a $50 steak, you're not getting that much from, you're not getting that from the city.
But that's your whole day. That's what I'm saying. You're adding up your
Okay,
whole day.
but what it sounds like, what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Okay, what it sounds like is you want the city to just pay everything, whatever you choose to do
No.
without anything, the things that are already set in place to prevent us from abusing.
That's not abuse. If you're taking for the whole, some people don't eat breakfast. Some people don't eat lunch.
Okay,
But this is my total for the day. Okay, and that is where that is. And
That's a
that's just
standard.
that suggestion.
This
That's
is
just
standard
that.
rate.
But also,
Attorney
what
Luss,
about
is that
people?
not a standard thing across the board?
I'm
Per
set
diem
on
for
board.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Per diem for not-
This is, the reimbursement is how we handle it citywide, and it's very common
So you got
for it to
council
be
people that can't go to
reimbursement.
conferences.
That's not true. That's not true, Monique, because
If they're
in the
doing
midst of,
reimbursement process,
but in the midst of all of it, everybody knew when they took on this, that this wasn't a top paying job. Didn't
but that's
everybody know
not
that?
for paying. I'm saying that, if I'm going to a conference, I've always gotten my gas money up front. Cause that's gonna be my gas money regardless.
They don't do it like that at the city.
I mean, I'm just
Nowhere in
saying,
the city.
I'm saying that council is different. So if a person comes to council and they are poor people, they can't go to council to
We're city
conferences.
employees,
But they can't go to conferences.
but here's the thing, though.
We
The
city
manager just
employees
stated,
sometimes.
the manager just stated that
Hold
that
on,
is
man, I'm
citywide. It's silly.
But we don't have to do that. Council does not have to adopt to do it the same way that the city staff does it. Do with it what you want, I'm putting it out there. So when somebody comes to city council and they're poor, don't expect them to go to conferences because they can't afford
That's
it. You gonna give them some money? Oh, okay.
That's too hypothetical to even
That's
be talking
not.
about. Yes, it is, sister.
How is that hypothetical?
Yeah, excuse me, Councilman Copeland.
Ostash has been waiting for a minute.
Ostash.
So, when the conferences that we went to before, because you brought up meals, there's government guidelines and per diems that we have to follow. You can only spend so much on breakfast, so much, and they break it down. My spouse had the same situation when he was in the school district. So I want to clarify that because that was brought up. So you can't just, there's only so much, like Councilman Williams said. They're only going to, and that's government mandated, federal.
Maybe it's changed.
Yep, federal.
Okay.
Councilman Copeland.
And I'm thankful for the spirit of conversation, but in reality, though, that is a point of equity. So I don't know how we could, as a city, though, if we did have, it's an instance, but we don't want to be found in that instance. And if we could possibly look at, is there a process? Because what she is sharing, I'm technically a state employee, and I do get a per diem, but I also have the option for a full amount for one day. So what she is saying, I have access to, but it's totally different the way we operate as a city. So I understand our guidelines. But I would just ask that if it is the case in the future, that we do have some way that if a council member wants to go and they are housing, whatever that situation is, that I'll support, whatever it is, if it's my colleague, because I take all of this as a working agreement. This is technically a working agreement. So you all are my colleagues, and if any of you ever find, I ain't got all the dollars, but I still help support wherever I can.
You're still, even, so in your per diem, you're still under IRS guidelines, so you have a set amount. So the way that we do it, so it really saves the citizens money, okay? If you're not gonna eat breakfast and lunch, then you don't get reimbursed for that. Why would the citizens wanna pay for that, give you the flat rate per diem? But I will say, in previous councils, so, councils have been around for a long time, we have had several council members that, we do prepay for the room, right? That's your major expense. If you are going to especially the MML, that's what most of you go to, there are a lot of meals that are included, and then you have other opportunities as well. But we have had other council members in the past that do carpool. If you maybe don't have the money to do that, there's 9 of you, and now almost all of you are going to all the conferences. So there are other options too.
I appreciate you. No, I got you.
Councilman Williams.
I don't know if it's possible or not, but I would like to throw the idea out there for maybe a scholarship program or something where if there is someone that is, in need, there's funds set aside to assist that person or people in those situations versus us having to change up the per diem and go through having this type of discussion.
I'll agree with that.
I would throw that idea.
Well,
If it can happen.
the Johnson Clare Award for MML, the Michigan Municipal League does have scholarships that actually pay for stuff. And all you gotta do is go on the webpage and look for scholarships and see what it entails. Instead of you, like, maybe paying for a conference, they'll pay for the conference. Again, just like you said, Councilman Williams, a lot of the meals, or who was it? Somebody said that a lot of the meals are included. You just gotta go to them.
There's language in there about.
Like when we go to MML, almost every morning it's a breakfast, you just gotta get up. And there is lunches that the city pays for us to go to luncheons. And in the evening, there's always some type of party. It's got, if nothing else but finger food. It's got finger foods. So, Councilwoman Sylvia, I'll get you you already know the webpage. Just go on the webpage.
But I'm just saying, not necessarily, and maybe me sometime, but
No,
I'm
no,
just
no,
saying
I'm not
somebody-
saying you in particular, I'm just
Okay.
saying, period. Any council person, there is scholarships available. That's why we had an EEO board, okay? And that actually tells us the roadmap on what we need to be doing. Do we have any more questions?
I just had one more.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Do they give gas money up front?
No,
Okay.
no, nobody, that's, you know what?
I'm just saying.
No, they don't.
Thank you, that's good enough for me.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, excuse me. What was that? Oh, in regards to roll call, when you do a roll call, and it was, I think, if it's only one person that's voting different than another one, do we have to do a roll call?
Yes,
And I don't know
Robert
what
rules
number.
of order.
Is it? The roll call for one?
Well, it's per our charter, I'm sorry.
Okay, per the
Per our
charter.
charter.
Okay.
So that means that if you talking about that, now we talking about changing charter. Whole nother
Thank you very
subject,
much.
whole nother subject.
Okay.
So, Madam
Yes,
Mayor,
sir.
may we recognize, please?
Yes.
Now we might see why I didn't want to go through all this, because it's so minute stuff that we talking about. I mean, the rules been going on for years, and we've been getting by. So these small, minute changes that we doing, it's not no major stuff. I mean, it's just,
Everybody got to get used to change, that's all to it.
God.
But that's why we're a council, and we're so lovely.
Yes, Councilman Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one last thing for section 26.6. I just asked to instruct the city staff to look into safeguards for the screens or protectors for the iPads if that's going to be something that's levied onto the individual council members. So just like I have a protector case for my iPhone and a screen, please look into possibly safeguarding these as well. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? We got a motion on the floor. Am I right or wrong?
Correct.
We need to vote on the motion. Can you repeat the motion, please?
The motion is to approve the amendments to the rules of order of the council of the city of Saginaw.
You ready? Y'all ready?
Yes.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Sylvia.
No.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Councilmember Balls.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bench.
Yes.
Councilmember Ostache.
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia.
Yes.
Councilmember Flores.
Nay.
Councilmember Copeland. And Mayor Moore.
Yes.
You have 7 yes and 2 no. That motion is approved. Item number 4 is to approve the reallocation of $4 million from the American Rescue Plan Act Housing Revolving Loan Allocation to the Saginaw Home Rehabilitation Program for the improvement of furnaces, roofs, windows, and demolitions. That was Councilmember Balls.
I don't mind us, doing that, but not to the amount. I was hoping that maybe we can get somebody that can come here with some plans to build houses. If they can give us some plans by the end of this year, or maybe we can put a timeline so they don't go before 2024 to build houses, then maybe we can take $2 million of that dollars to build houses, and if they don't do it by then we can still put that money into the program for the furnaces and other things. I know there's developers that would like to build houses in the city of Saginaw. In the city of Detroit, Flint, you always have cities that give money to developers so they can build houses, for the citizens can have houses. And I'm saying that we can get that done within 6, 7, 8 months, then I would like for us to take a look at that, and if it don't happen, then we can put the money back into the furnaces and other stuff. I'd like to make a motion that we amend that one to add $2 million for housing with a stipulation that if somebody can bring us some plans within.
Maybe we could provide you some more information first. So, Yolanda, can you let us know, out of the applicants that we currently have that are eligible, how much would it be to replace the furnaces and roofs that are complete applications that are ready to go that we don't have funding for?
Okay, so we had a total of 258 applications that are ready to go, of the 600 that we received. We do not have enough money at this point to even get through the 258. Our whole intention was to ask for this additional monies to get through the 258, incorporate windows because we don't have enough money to do windows at all.
Right.
And also address some of our demolition needs that CDBG dollars cannot cover. So that's why we asked for the full $4 million to get through what we have as ready-to-go type projects for the roofs.
Do you have the number?
Much. We have signed contracts of 103, but we have like 120 going through the process right now. So if we don't get additional funding, we're going to stop. We won't even get through the 258, so.
I just want to know how much to complete the ones that have already applied.
We would need about 2.5 million at a minimum.
So that would leave 1.5.
Let me, I'll strike my motion, just so we would have the citizens come to city council meeting and want to find out why we stopped the process, so.
Right.
I mean, we was gonna give it to them for loans, now we're gonna give it to them to fix up their houses, so it's all still
Right.
good for the city side.
It's going back in the community.
So I decline my motion. I don't support it anyway, so it's fine.
Mayor, before there's further discussion and questions, there needs to be a motion to approve. That was just addressing Councilmember Ball's exception. Before anybody else is opened for discussion,
needs
there
to
needs
be
to
a
be a
motion.
motion. Yes.
Say it again, council.
I make the motion to approve number 4.
Second.
There you go. It's been moved in second. We got to vote or no?
Discussion.
Discussion. Yes,
Thank you
Councilwoman.
so much. With the number 4, I guess I'm kind of going back to what we discussed when Guidehouse was here. I thought we was going to take everything. I'm not saying that I'm not in agreement with part of this, but I'm saying I thought we were going to bring everything back and look at reallocating monies, not just get pieces here and there, that we would come back and, whomever is over this bucket or whatever.
I can give you more
Okay,
information.
please.
So both of these were city-administered projects.
Mm-hmm.
So we had, it's like 3.8 million for the roofs, furnaces, windows, and then we had 4 million for this revolving program, and another million, so there are 5 total. That was Mayor Pro Tem Bench motion, and she can correct me if I'm wrong in my description here, but the 1 million of the 4 was for directed to commercial buildings, whether commercial, residential, but to help eliminate blight on those buildings. The 4 million for the revolving loan type program that we were going to have, we did bid that out and nobody responded. And then we contacted individual financial institutions, and none of them wanted to partner with us because ARPA is very stringent on the guidelines, and they were concerned about the guidelines and the time permitted. So when we brought this back and looked at it, we thought, okay, what was the intent here? And the intent was to preserve the housing stock in the city. I believe that's what Mayor Pro Tem's motion was, and we were looking at, okay, how do we possibly take land bank houses and rehab them to sell or something like that. Nobody wanted to do that with us. So now what's another logical step to help preserve the housing stock in the city? Make sure they have roofs, furnaces, and windows so they don't abandon their homes. As Ms. Bland pointed out, we have we've gone through a number of roofs and a number of furnaces. We still have a lot of applicants that are eligible and have completed their application process that right now would not have the replacements done. We haven't done anything with windows, and my guess is if we don't, as Councilman Ball said, that you'll have people here. So we want to design a grant program for the windows and also the boilers, because we haven't done any boilers either. So that's where we are with this.
Okay, so you keep saying specifying windows, but if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it windows and doors?
No,
Never, was not that? Ooh, y'all
doors, just windows.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just to clarify, the 2.5 million that we need to finish, those are the people who have already applied and are approved, not including the windows.
Right.
So when we made the $3.8 million motion for the home rehabilitation program, it was initially just for furnaces and roofs, and then we amended it to include windows, but when we amended it to include windows, we did not increase the amount that we were allocating. So it kind of came to its natural conclusion that we were gonna end up running out of funds at some point. So, I mean, I think it's probably one of the highest and best uses of these dollars, so.
We've had overwhelming applicants, and the number of people that were here, and the staff can tell you how many people were here every weekend, and I know several of you council members were here, but we really don't want to leave the people who came in and applied and gave us all of everything that was required. We don't want to leave them short on getting their roof replaced.
And we definitely don't want to leave the people that said, okay, I'm not gonna do a roof,
Right.
I'm not gonna do a boiler, I'm gonna wait on the window.
Waiting on
Anything
windows.
else.
But you know what, our intentions really was to do the windows, and I kept saying, we can't afford the windows. We can't, we don't want to just start 1 or 2 windows in a person's house, so I think that the plan that the team talked about is a good plan. It's gonna help assist. So,
Yeah, and we're up and going with it. That's the other reason why we want to keep moving on it, because Yolanda and her team are working through all the process. We've got all the vendors already, and they're out there working every day.
I do just have one question, because I'm gonna make a motion. How much, or would this be something later, you just have the 4 million? How much is going towards the windows, the heaters, and or at least the demolition?
So as Ms. Bland said, the 2.5 is about approximate amount to get done what we have. So
That's already besides the windows?
yeah, outside of the windows. So once they're gonna design a grant program for windows that equalizes it with the cost of the furnace and the roof, so that we can grant out to windows. We'll have to go through that process and see what we have, and then the remaining funds would be if there are demolitions. It could get to a point where there might not be money left after we get through all of the applicants, because we don't know how many people are gonna apply and accept the window grants. Or boilers, I think, about 25 or so. We already know that because they did apply already.
cost some money.
And they are,
Cost some money. Yes, Councilman Ostash.
Real quick, just because part of this does talk about demolitions, and I reached out to Tim, and thank you for all the clarification, but I'm gonna swing, because Yolanda just mentioned something too about stuff that was not CBDG block grant qualified. That was exactly what I got a hold of the manager for. So, and he also explained, because I know there's people, when they see this, when they hear demolition, stuff starts to get talked about and happening. So there's neighborhoods out there that the manager explained that people would like something done and to clean them up a little bit. So when you talk demolition, it could be just cleaning up part of the block, and there are homes that are already fallen to the ground. So I just wanted to clarify that for the folks that are watching
Okay.
or will hear.
Isn't it earmarked for a particular place, demolition?
CDBG is, right?
CDBG is based on different census tracts, so what we're able to do in CDBG is only for the CDB census tract. What this will give us the ability is to go outside those tracts.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And it also helps a lot of people who would not normally be eligible to be eligible. Okay? There's a motion on the floor.
Can you repeat the motion,
Right.
please?
To approve number 4.
Madam Clerk.
The motion is to approve the reallocation of $4 million from the American Rescue Plan Act Housing Revolving Loan Allocation to the Saginaw Home Rehabilitation Program for the improvement of furnaces, roofs, windows, and demolitions.
So moved. Oh,
It's been moved. Can I get a second?
It's
Been moved and seconded.
You just take your vote.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
All those opposed, nay. Madam Clerk,
We are at boards, commission, and committee reports.
do we have any reports from any boards or commission?
Yes, Mayor. Just a quick report regarding the food feasibility study. We're currently, I must say, our firm has been doing an amazing job in reaching out to local communities. We're now in the phase where we will start surveying the community. We've already identified a couple of organizations that we hope to survey just to get some information regarding where the actual services they're looking for. One thing, in October, we will start sending out the survey. Survey is almost completed, and we will be getting that out shortly. One thing that we're going to need, I do have a PowerPoint for all of my colleagues. If you are interested in this PowerPoint, I will share it with you.
Send it anyways.
Okay, I'll
Send it
still
to everybody. Send it to Vicky and let Vicky or Rachel get it out to us, please.
I'll do that, wherever Vicky is. I hope he hears. Yeah, but I'll make sure that gets there. October 17th, our firm will be going to the NAG meeting to actually sit down with our community. Thank you to, I done drew a blank on your name. Cassie, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for giving us this space to meet with our neighborhood associations. So that will be there, and then November, Anna will be at the Alpac meeting. But our hope is to have the surveys ahead of time to all of us, and anyone who's interested in getting that out. We're asking religious organizations, neighborhood communities, anyone from the city of Saginaw. We need to hear your voice on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other reports? Hearing none, Madam. Yes.
I just wanted to mention that we did have a city-school liaison meeting last Thursday. We had a lot of robust discussion about the various things that are going on. But our main focus was to come together and try to find collaborative efforts for the 3 governing bodies to work on. And the big one was housing and trying to find ways to provide housing to the teachers, for example. There was some talk about Renaissance zones that have been put in place, and we're doing some more research on that to incentivize teachers, police and fire to live within their community. And the other one is we're going to do a big voter registration event for all of the high schools. I did ask them to reach out to our new clerk, Bolzman, but that will be mainly headed up by our county clerk, but we're going to get into the different high schools and make sure that we're getting our young people registered to vote and make sure that they know that if they're going away to college, they should be absentee voters and that there's just no excuse. So I think that's a good project for the 3 governing bodies to work on, and I'm looking forward to whatever comes from that. And that's all I had.
Anybody else?
Yes, I was at that meeting too, and I did mention to the school board about the vacant schools. And they said if anybody want to buy those schools, just come back and get with them. We can find some developers that's interested in refurnishing those schools into apartments, then maybe we should look into it. I would advise the city, man, to see if we can find some grants from the state of Michigan to do that with. I mean, because I see they have done this in Lansing and other places I've seen, and it's beautiful to see that those grounds are turned into housing. And I think it'd be something for us to look at to keep citizens in the city of Saginaw.
We did, as a city, we talked to an organization that does that, but it really needs to be administered through the school district, and I know there are some of the school board members who have reached out to similar organizations.
We need to push them a little bit more. Yeah.
Yes, Councilman Williams.
May I ask a question in regards to that?
Yes.
Okay. Was there discussion in your idea of turning those schools into apartments for the teachers that they want to come in?
Not necessarily teachers, but, I mean, it would be, I'm sure they would go to that idea. It don't matter.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Just one quick one. Wouldn't it be several, Councilman Balls or Mayor Pro Tem, several schools would have to probably be torn down though, right?
It's my understanding from the school superintendent that most of the schools that they have, according to them, need to be torn down. It is also my understanding that they do not necessarily have the funds to do that immediately. I have heard different things up to a couple of years. There are some people who would like to see different schools come down in their neighborhood or be utilized. And I have, and I'll say it on the record, I have approached the school district repeatedly and gotten mixed responses from them. But you can't have it both ways. Either Hanley Elementary, the old one, was habitable for my kids, or it wasn't. Not one or the other or both. It's one or the other. So that we have a school there that was just recently occupied. I have, conveyed my desire to see that building marketed and sold. Whenever we own properties, we put them out for bid and ask people, you have to publicize that they're for sale. So maybe that's something we can work on encouraging the school district to do.
Thank you.
Sure, when I get home.
Yes.
But
Yes.
Yeah, Councilman Bench, I'm glad you brought this up, and you were talking with them about incentives for the city too. There's just recently something that I talked to the manager about. We have the opportunity in the city of Saginaw, we actually have this as part of our ordinance right now, but we have to do it through resolution. They're called neighborhood enterprise zones, and they are also tax incentives for rehabilitation in your city. So if you want to, that's something that we could take a look at. It's something that I just recently have started to take a look at, and I know somebody that actually used it in the city of Bay City. So it's just another.
Can you get that information out?
I will send that to Vicki and have that send her to you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Madam Clerk,
That takes us to appointment of board, commission, committee members.
I need a motion to approve 1 through 4, leaving room for exception.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any exception? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Madam Clerk,
We are now at ordinance consideration and adoption. We have one on the agenda. It's to amend the official city map to vacate a portion of an alley running northeasterly to southeasterly through William Gallagher's subdivision of Lot 11 in Block 9 of Gallagher's plat of Salina.
I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Madam Clerk,
We are now at miscellaneous business.
do we have any motions?
I have a motion. I'd like to make a motion to amend the ARPA allocation resolution for the Saginaw Community Food Club and Kitchen totaling $1 million to replace references to the Saginaw Community Food Club and Kitchen with the Saginaw Community Foundation for the benefit of and as the fiduciary for the Saginaw Community Food Club and Kitchen.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Madam Clerk, I need a motion to adjourn. Do not move. Second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, good night, everybody.